Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Please say something.
Yes, doctor, we can hear you.
Yeah. Loud and clear, everyone.
Dear doctor.
Okay, so it's our master class. I gather this is perhaps the fifth, right? If I'm not mistaken. Is it the fifth or the fourth? If this is week 6, it should be the fifth. Yeah, okay. Anyway. So what do we have on the agenda? We're having the MTA coming up. Is it? Yeah, it is next week. We have done, I gather, everything in terms of covering the material. And today it's going to be more of a Q&A kind of thing. You should be preparing or perhaps have prepared already, and you should have questions that you would like to ask me, and I try to answer them to the best of my ability. Let's do it this way. I mean, we're going to start with your questions, and then after we finish, and I'll give you like some kind of panoramic view of the whole thing, inshallah. Before we do this or that, I would like to perhaps tell you about the format of the exam. We spoke about that before, but it wouldn't harm if we repeat what we said. We said typical of any 8 credit hour courses, you normally have 2 sections or 2 parts. You have the first part, which is usually short answers part, and I'll explain what a short answer is. And then you have the second part, which is the essays. And sometimes you have an essay, a prompt for an essay, or you can have a close reading. Let's focus on the first part, the short answer questions. This is the part where we give you perhaps concepts that you need to expand on. It can be a concept, it can be an idea. Like, for example, when we talk about anthropomorphism, when we talk about cultural literacy, when we ask you about the choice of gorillas in Voices in the Park. So these are short questions that wouldn't amount to long essays. That's why we're keeping them in the short answer. But we can have an exhaustive list of them when we finish talking about the format in a minute. So this is the short answer part where you're required to write a short answer. So a short answer, I would like you to always make this comparison between a short answer and a long answer. If I expect you to write an essay that is perhaps 3 pages long, so this is a long answer, right? This is a long essay. So if I say short, it doesn't mean that you write a small paragraph, 5 or 6 sentences. That wouldn't do justice to the question and to you yourself, because we're expecting you to provide vivid examples, to situate the question, to perhaps say where you have found the concept or the idea, whether it's in one of the picture books or in the novel, The Other Side of Truth. So you need to mention where the concept, where you have encountered and you have seen the concept. You need to explain the concept or the idea and give examples from the novel. So if you think of all of this, a small paragraph, 3 or 4 or 5 lines wouldn't be enough. So if you ask me, half a page would be good, perhaps more than that, provided that you are to the point, but provided that you are concise and everything. So this is as far as the short answer part is concerned. Normally you have 3 choices and you choose 2. I mean, we give you 3 short answer topics, and we ask you to choose to talk about two of them. And then we move to the long answers question, or part rather. And this is where you're supposed to write full-fledged essays, a long essay, okay? And my concept and my definition of a long essay would be that as an essay that shouldn't, under any circumstances, be shorter than at least 2 pages. It doesn't mean that we're counting, then I'm giving you an estimation. I'm giving you from our experience. A good essay would amount to much. Please mute your mic. Again, I'm talking about the second part of the exam where you have the essays. And again, I'm stressing the fact that you have to write, okay? Again, ideally, people write 3 pages and they are concise and to the point. They provide examples. They make the right connections. So this is what we're expecting in this part of the exam. Again, you have like 2 questions and you answer, or you have to answer one of them. In this part, you may have a close reading exercise, which means that you can have close reading. And close reading is not limited to having a passage from the novel or having a passage from the picture books. It can also be a picture from one of the picture books. So it can be a picture, and you need to unpack the picture. Unpacking the picture means that you're trying to crack its codes. And codes can be colors, can be change of seasons, can be the backgrounds, can be in backgrounds, for example, in Voices in the Park, there is always this talk about intertextuality, visual intertextuality, where you normally have intertextual objects in the background, a painting by a painter. You have King Kong, if you still remember. See, so these are all very important intertextual clues that you need to think of if the close reading is from Voices in the Park. Remember when we spoke about the positions of the characters, how central they are to the page, when we spoke about how big or small the characters are, the vantage point from which they are drawn. Remember those things? When we spoke about fonts, the varying and the different fonts of the different characters, what does this indicate? These are all things that you may find in a close reading part. Again, we're after the total experience. You don't focus on certain signs and you don't tie them up with the rest of the picture book. Your answer should be unified, should be uniform, having a goal. Having a goal means that we're talking about the totality of experience, the effect that the writer is trying to achieve with this kind of setting and with this kind of painting, this kind of font, this kind of background. All of that have to be considered and thought very well of. So this is as far as the format of the exam or the midterm exam is concerned. So if you have any questions about that, come to the mic and share with us. I'm talking about the format still. Okay. Okay, that's good. Let's now talk about the short answer questions. Let's think of all the possibilities. Let's make of course, having an exhaustive list would be out of the realm of possibility, given the fact that we have so many things when we talk about concepts and ideas in the three works that we have given. But let's try our luck and think of as many concepts and conceptual bubbles as we can. When we talk about the short answer questions, we have concepts like anthropomorphism. So you explain what anthropomorphism is, right? You perhaps talk about its origins, going all the way back to Aesop, I'm sorry, and then you talk about it, you unpack it, what it means. I mean, having or giving animals human qualities and attributes, and why this is happening, especially in Voices in the Park. This idea of neutrality, this idea of making or giving this distance between the characters and the audience or the reader, so that we can create some kind of a non-biased space. So we spoke about that already. So this is one of the ideas. When I talk about cultural literacy, and this is something that we have seen, especially with Naidu. Naidu has always been talking about and promoting this idea of cultural um, literacy. So again, when there is a concept, I need to locate it. I need to say, to contextualize it, say where it is from. So if it's cultural concept, cultural literacy, you know that this is Naidu in her novel, The Other Side of Truth, and you talk, you start to unpack the concept itself, right? Cultural literacy is about um, addressing her white European readership, especially the children, raising their awareness about the existence of other cultures, creating empathetic spaces towards those other cultures. And then you give examples from the novel as why or how this was not happening in the novel. Those acts and scenes of bullying, this is not cultural literacy. Obviously, those children, those white children, were displaying or showing some kind of xenophobic attitudes towards the other, towards the non-white, and this is what she is fighting with her cultural literacy idea. So you talk about that, you give examples of this, just that. Um, yeah, let's open the floor for you to come and perhaps we can brainstorm and think of as many concepts that we can have in the short answers part as possible. So what do you think? So I started the conversation by talking about cultural literacy, anthropomorphism, mm, intertextuality. Yes, absolutely. Okay. And by the way, we have regular, familiar intertextuality, and we also have visual intertextuality. Do we have that? I'm asking you. Where? Where do we have intertextuality in the works that we have seen and read?
In the Voices in the Park.
Of course, in Voices in the Park, right? So intertextuality. Okay, so is it intertextuality or visual intertextuality that we have seen?
Visual.
Visual, okay. So how are you going to start something like this? Okay, so you're going to explain and perhaps define what intertextuality is, right? When you have references to texts outside the text that you're reading, right? Referring um, to the Bible, to other literature piece, you know what intertextuality is. And then you talk about visual art, intertextuality. Here, of course, you don't have a text, you don't have a verbal text. What you now have, you have perhaps an image of uh, um, a cinematic scene, you have an image of a painting, right? A sculpture. Yeah, good. Okay, you talk about that. You refer to the fact that it does happen and take place in Voices in the Park. You talk about the idea that, remember, we have this debate on whether children can understand that, and we said that they may fail to understand that because of the fact that they are children, and we don't normally agree with this idea that they have this inbuilt literacy in them. We may perhaps embrace the idea that, I mean, they read this text and then they read another and they read a third and they kind of make some kind of database inside them so that when they read something while they are still children, they can always remember or they can always retrieve the ideas that they have from their database, the database that they themselves have built. This is also another theory that you may want to talk about. So, and then you give examples of visual intertextuality from the voices, excuse me, from Voices in the Park. Yeah. Okay. So what else? So intertextuality, um, anthropomorphism, cultural literacy. Yeah. Give me more. We're talking about the short answer part. This is not, yeah, everything is implicit and explicit. When we talk about messages, I mean, novels and picture books are all about messages. I'm talking about concepts and ideas that you can find in the short answer part as yours. Okay, so messages are all over the place. It can be a question. It can't. Okay, or perhaps it cannot be that clear cut, that direct. Tell me about the messages that the writer is trying to get across in Naidu's novel. No, this is very direct, right? No. Um, yeah. What else? Short answers. The ending. Let's talk about the ending of perhaps the tale of Peter Rabbit, because obviously, yeah, and it can be an essay, and you can write a lot about it, and it can also be a short answer. And the ending, and how ambivalent Beatrice Potter was. Ambivalent means that you cannot really know whether she was for or against what Peter did. The idea of infringing on the property of Mr. McGruger, and you know what happened, right? So she's really ambivalent. Ambivalent, yani you can't really know whether she was siding with with Peter, and that's why he could run away. Whether she was against him, that's why he had to kind of go through those trials and tribulations, and he almost got killed. You talk about that. You talk about whether the whole work is a cautionary tale. Cautionary tale in the sense that it is trying to tell people or children, listen, this is what will happen to you if you disobey your mom and your dad. Remember? So it can be about that. So obviously, when you talk about the ending, the interpretation is up for grabs, like I always say. You can, uh, your role or your duty would be to bring in the two divergent opinions, and perhaps comment on them, and perhaps add your viewpoint. Tell us whether you're, you think chamomile tea is a reward or it is a punishment, for example. This is a possible short answer question. Yeah, again, this idea of the Victorian age and the values that the book is set against. So you have a number of Victorian values. I mean, the idea of obedience, the idea of respectability, the idea of keeping the rights, and then you have somebody perhaps deviating from and or challenging those ideas. Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah, we're talking about concrete, definitions. We're talking about concrete concepts. The idea of codes, what codes are, and who introduced them. Remember, and what they mean. It's like having a puzzle, and you're trying to piece together the different pieces so that you can come up with the meaning. So cracking those codes, and those codes can be, they can be color, they can be seasonal shifts, they can be even the intertextual elements that you have in the background, they can be fonts, right? They can even be they can be the paratextual elements that we have even before we start the piece of work. Yeah. Okay. One big concept that we also need to talk about, and it can be a short answer question, is the idea of postmodernism. Remember when we spoke about postmodernism, and we said that Voices in the Park is a postmodern piece of work. Postmodern, perhaps in terms of techniques more. So you see how divergent and different Voices in the Park and uh, the other side of truth are. When you talk about Voices in the Park, the postmodern presence in it or elements have all to do with the techniques used. Twisted narratives, the fact that you have four different narrators, the fact that you don't have a closure, the fact that it's not normal or your usual narrative, right? On the other hand, the other side of truth is also a postmodern piece of work, but the themes are postmodern, but not the techniques. So remember, we said that it's with the other side of truth, it's very normal and very usual. You have a clear beginning, development of events, and then you have a conclusion where obviously Shade and her brother are united with their father, and obviously they will live happily ever after. So this is your normal, usual kind of narrative. So it is not postmodern in its techniques, but the other side of truth is postmodern in its themes. We talk about, you know, fearless reporting. We talk about migration and immigration. We talk about the responsibilities of societies towards their towards children, the responsibilities of parents toward their kids. We talk about moral ambiguity. We also spoke about moral absolutism or the lack thereof, the role of the media. These are all emerging issues that we're now grappling with post 20th century. Um, what else? So postmodernism, when we spoke about postmodernism, like I said, it's all about the techniques. that people use, especially in Voices in the Park, where, like I said, instead of having one single narrator, you have four that would also contribute towards the diversity of opinions and the fact that this is postmodern par excellence, like they say, because the postmodern is about uh, the fluidity of truth, the fact that nothing is absolute. Yes. So if nothing is absolute, it means that I have my own truth and everybody else is entitled to his own truth. Um, what else? We're still talking about short answer questions. So postmodern or postmodernism, techniques and voices in the park and themes and the other side of truth. Um, Intertextuality, cultural literacy, symbolism of all kinds and types, whether we talk about color symbolism, seasonal shifts, right? Um, Remember what we said uh, about this symbiosis or this harmony between the text and the picture or the image. This is also something that you need to think of. Specialist in what? Concealment? I don't know about that. No, you're trying to say that, no, we spoke about that when I spoke about the idea of ambivalence. You cannot safely say that she was hiding or concealing something or she had an agenda. She was quite ambivalent. You cannot really know whether she is for what Peter was doing or against it. Like I said, this idea of ambivalence is very important. And if you talk about it along these lines, you will find something to talk about. So if you talk about concealment, you're taking her in a certain direction, and obviously you won't be able to kind of back up with evidence from the picture book what you're saying. So focus on this idea of ambivalence. It can serve you right. Um, um, the setting is very important. The setting in any novel, the setting in any picture book is very important. Um, so the shift from where Peter was and where he went, and then he headed back home, and what happened in the middle in terms of the journey that he embarked on. Yeah, this is also a possibility. When you talk about this epistemological pilgrimage, if you like, where at the beginning he was unaware, he was perhaps reckless, and then he went through the experience of going to the farm of Mr. MacGruger, and he saw what he saw in terms of trials and tribulations. When he came back, we're sure that he was a hardened, different person. You can talk about this trajectory, okay? This idea, which is, by the way, very typical of children's literature, where you have this uh, male, a boy normally, and he embarks on a journey of initiation. When you meet him at the beginning and when you meet him at the end, it's a totally different person in terms of knowledge, experience, initiation. He is now the manly boy that everybody wants him to be. I mean, I'm talking about the male society. So you can talk about this trajectory, yes. It is very much there in the novel, in the picture book. Yes. Um, I- yeah, yeah. The idea of gender roles and how those gender roles are reversed, especially in Voices in the Park. But to a certain extent, even in the other side of truth, where obviously you wouldn't expect a girl or children in general to have agency, to kind of take matters into their own hands, and for obvious reasons. So we said that society failed them on a number of occasions. Yeah. So you have gender reversal of gender roles as far as Voices in the Park is concerned. When we talk about Smudge, when you talk even about the mother, and you would also see how the boy who is in other pieces of literature, you would think of him in a manly and masculine manner, taking initiative, making things happen. But obviously, this time around, Charles is a representation of whatever is not manly, and we shouldn't be too harsh on him. Um, Also, given the fact that he's a child, his mom is more domineering, is more dominating and everything. But this is, yeah, this is a classic example of gender reversals. Yeah, yeah, this is also a possibility and an item that we need to think of. What else? Yeah. Again, when we talk about the tale of Peter Rabbit, we talk about this idea of poetic justice. Remember, we said in this is a classic. This is a classic motif or idea in any piece of literature where towards the end of the novel or the play or the picture book, you expect good people to be rewarded and evil and bad people to be punished. So again, this is another controversy and another debate. Do we have rules of those rules of poetic justice observed? Again, it depends on your perspective. It depends on how you see this chamomile tea kind of thing. Well, do you think it's a reward? And if you think it's a reward, so you think that Peter was a good person. If you think it's a punishment, you think of him along the lines of perhaps evilness, transgression, violation, and all those kinds of things. Yeah, absolutely. Hmm. Voices in the Park. What else? Again, we're now moving from short answers to the essays, and obviously the ideas are so many. So let's take them one at a time. Let's talk about the long essay part and talk about the themes and the ideas that we may have, and let's take them, like I said, one at a time. The tale of Peter Rabbit, gender reversals and gender fluidity can be a theme or an idea. Um, Again, the different vantage points from which the character of Peter was presented, the ambivalence of the writer, the ambiguity that we have seen with the end of this picture book. We cannot safely say whether this is a victory for Peter or perhaps a defeat. Um, Again, that would also verge on moral ambiguity. There is a bit of moral ambiguity and ambivalence as far as Beatrice Potter is concerned. What else about the tale of Peter Rabbit? Again, it has also anthropomorphism, given the fact that we're talking about Peter and his family, and they are all rabbits, right? Again, you can talk about this idea of colonialism and who has claim to the land. Remember, this is how we started the argument. We're talking obviously about nature, and nature doesn't have an owner. So for MacDougall to colonize it and to claim the farm as his, obviously, it is something that we can dispute and talk about. And in this case, when Peter goes over, it means that perhaps he is reclaiming what is his. And perhaps it was his father's attempt, faulted and doomed as it was, to restore their what they think as animals their right, the idea of reclaiming what you think. So again, colonization can loom on the horizon, can be a theme and an idea, a very nice one. Um, what else about the tale of Peter Rabbit? um, Again, think of the visual aspects of this picture book, because it's a picture book. If I ask you questions about picture books, I should be focusing perhaps more on the visual elements in it, because it's everything else can be left to the novel, where the novel is a novel where you have a text. But if I have a picture book, I ask you about pictorial and visual elements, and perhaps this can happen if you have a close reading on an image or a picture. Yes. Let's go to Voices in the Park, because uh, uh, it is also replete with ideas and concepts. Again, it's a postmodern piece of work with whatever comes with that, in terms of the ideas that it evokes and conjures up, non-linearity, multivocal, multiple narrators, were not hijacked by one single narrator like we're used to in regular uh, pieces of literature. We're not confined to one single viewpoint. Difference and divergence of classes, and how the fonts, reflect that, and how the images reflect that, uh, what else? The way the characters sit, whether they face each other or they are away from each other, their sizes, right? The backgrounds, color symbolism, right? Seasonal shifts and what they entail and indicate, right? Um, Impressionistic art, where you're getting the impression through those different symbols. Surrealistic, where whatever happens can kind of leaks down inside you and give you certain images that are perhaps not very real, but yani, of the fantastic. Again, we spoke about this idea of classes and the fact that we have different classes, and the characters reflect those different classes, and obviously they are not in agreement with each other. There is always this class clash. People in high classes looking down on people in the lower classes and people in the lower classes not approving of the manners and the habits of people in high classes. You have this archetypal kind of difference. Again, we have those clashes, and the different characters represent those kinds of clashes. And perhaps there was this attempt upon perhaps the young generation to bridge this gap between classes. But whether this succeeded at the end, it's up for grabs because the end is open. You don't know whether they will meet again. They have this wish and hope that they may meet again. But again, it ended on this idea of open-endedness, if you like, indicating that the future is, you never know what the future holds, good or bad, right? So again, voices in the park. Um, Intertextuality, postmodern, um, class conflicts, reversal of gender roles, where um, the child, Smudge, for example, is doing what you expect a boy to do, and Charles doing what you expect a girl to do. And I'm not talking about stereotypes, so that's not that I'm subscribing to these ideas, of course. Mhm. What else? What do you think when it comes to Voices in the Park? How much do you remember about Voices in the Park that you would like to share with us? We're making again, having an exhaustive list of all the ideas is obviously not possible because they are so replete with ideas. And the more you think of them, the more the ideas, obviously. That's why you need at one point to say enough is enough. I have done what I'm supposed to, because every single thing can be a question that you can think of. So take it easy on yourselves. At one point you would say, yeah, that's too ambitious, and that would be bigger than the scope of a midterm. So don't bother yourself too much with, and obviously you are now circulating material from 100 years back in time. And you're trying to, in your scramble to get the highest GPA possible, you're trying to consume all of them, and no, this is not the way to go. Okay, study, read the material, read the secondary sources, and assimilate everything, process everything, and that would be it. You, in this way, you'll be able to answer whatever question that may come your way. It's not about cramming. It's not about spending the nights cramming and piling things up and stuff. No, it's not about. It's about being intelligent, being smart, a smart consumer of material. It's about awareness. Okay. What else about voices in the park, if any? Are you sure you don't have any questions? Hi, let's take a 10-minute break, and then when we come back, inshallah, I would like you to think. We talk about the other side of truth and wrap up the whole thing before the midterm exam, inshallah. So I'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay? Ciao. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, doctor.
Hello. Yeah, good.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, Noor, can you go to the WhatsApp group and alert our colleagues that we're here?
Sure, doctor.
Thank you. Okay. I think we're back. طيب. I have an announcement to make. It's not about this course per se. It's about you being yani graduating students, and some of you may be considering working as a teacher. If you're considering working as a teacher, raise your hands. Okay. Only one person? Hmm. Okay. طيب. Yeah, that's a good answer. The idea that you're not certain, which means that it's up for grabs. You may consider it later, okay? So that's why I'm saying the following. We're here in Jeddah in our FLS chapter of the larger FLS, which is Saudi Arabia and maybe bigger than that. We're having this virtual, I call it virtual pavilion. It's like a forum where we're having a number of activities, and we're targeting you as graduating students. We're targeting your other colleagues who are not yet graduating. We have something for them. We also have things for teachers. So it's a place where we're going to have a number of activities during Ramadan, inshallah, during or over the first 3 weeks of Ramadan. Part of what we're doing is TEFL training. You know, TEFL is teaching English as a foreign language, and we're giving a number of workshops. If you're considering working as a teacher, if you are still undecided, you can always join them. Those workshops, they are 6, and I'm giving them myself. I think you'll find the experience very interesting. Now I'm going to share the link to the schedule or the timetable during Ramadan, and I would like you to perhaps circulate it among your other colleagues. And I would like you to attend because we normally give very nice insights. We actually we do that in summer every semester, and it's paid. This time around, it's not paid. It's for free. I would like you to take advantage of this training opportunity. And it's at night. We normally start at 11 p.m. after يعني الإفطار. كل عام وأنتم بخير. Let me share the link to the timetable, and we're starting next Saturday, inshallah. Yeah, I'm leaving the link, the chat area. So what I am sure of is the workshops that I'm giving, because I'm the one who is giving them. I'm considering also having somebody from outside who is a certified translator. And if you think translation is for you, we can also have a session on translation by, I have a friend who is now based in New York. He is a UN certified translator. We can have him in one of the slots. But let me see. What I'm trying to say is that it's going to be very beneficial, I promise you. I would like you to press the link that I sent you and see whether the timetable opens with you or not. Can you confirm that it opens? I can even share it here. Yeah, I sent it in the chat area. I'm not sure you
It's a
can.
link, doctor, for
Uh,
the writing
so,
center.
yeah, I'm sorry. This is the one that will, yeah, this, I'm sorry. Uh, I think you have it. Don't you have it, Joyce? The table, the timetable, but then somehow, yeah, let me see if I can. Yeah, I think this is the one. See? Yeah, try to open this one. Yeah, Wissam wants it on the WhatsApp group. Can you send it to the WhatsApp group? Yeah, whoever, سواء نور أو
Yeah,
Joyce.
sure, doctor. Hello, one
Good.
second.
Yeah, I need everybody to confirm that it opens.
Yes, doctor, it opened.
الحمد لله. كده أموت وأنا مستريح. Okay. ممتاز. Yes. Yeah, this is the one, right? And these are my sessions, the sessions that I'm telling you about. TEFL, from common sense to nuance. This is workshop one. Okay, and then you have another one, and this one. And then you have a third one, and then a fourth one, a fifth one, and a sixth one. So they are six in total. And of course, every workshop has a different theme and a different topic. Okay, so this is not the end of it. We have other interesting stuff. We have a session on translation by Dr. Mohsen. We have a session on how to use AI for learning purposes by Dr. Hassan. We also have Dr. Sayed. He is a novelist, and he has his novel and is going to discuss it, an autobiographical deep dive by none other than the author himself. We also have Dr. Mustafa presenting on the Saudi novel, From Appropriation to Inspiration. This promises to be a very interesting session on the Saudi novel. If you're interested, if you're perhaps you consider doing MAs or PhDs, and that can be a very nice topic. So it's going to be very interesting. We're waiting for a number of other colleagues. We'll have a session We haven't decided on the timing yet of alumni, a number of those who graduated, very brilliant graduates that I know and who work now in good places. They are going to have to come, and we'll talk to them in one of the sessions. It's going to be moderated by me. We'll have a session by some of your colleagues, perhaps one on how to read nonfiction and the other on how to read a novel. So I would like you to go as of Saturday, every day. We normally have 3 days. We have Saturdays and Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we normally start at 11 and end at 12. Again, I'm focusing perhaps more on this idea of TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language. If you're considering working as a teacher, you're going to find the experience very good. Again, this is the schedule, but this is the link. Can you see the link? This is the Teams room. This is where we're going to meet, inshallah. Is that clear, everyone? I hope
Yes,
it
clear.
is. Yeah, again,
Yes, doctor.
I would like you to kind of tell your other colleagues, those who are in other courses, if you're part of any other groups and you think it's going to be suitable for them, beneficial, I would like you, I don't want it to stop with you. I would like you to kind of spread the word. Can be beneficial. ناخد حسنات وتاخدوا انتوا كمان حسنات. طيب. Let's go back to the third piece of work that we're tested on, which is the other side of truth. Let's try to think of the themes and the ideas that you think are possible exam questions. And I'm going to start with you. What do you think? You haven't spoken much today. طيب, Joyce, is there, can you talk? And then obviously, can you come to the mic and talk, or? Because I need elaboration. If you say child agency, you have to come and tell about its different aspects and manifestations in the novel. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. So at least we're going to take the cue from Joyce and perhaps elaborate on that. Perhaps those who are able to speak, please come to the mic. One of the issues that Joyce raised is the idea of child agency. So let's talk about child agency. Those who are able to talk, if you have a question like this one, so what are you going to say and talk about? Come to the mic, please. What are the different manifestations of child agency? Where do you see child agency? With which characters, and what they did or what they do to show us this agency, and whether this agency is perhaps age appropriate or not? Would you expect them to show this agency at this early age if we're talking about children? Do you agree with this? And why? Why they went out of their way to show it and do it? What? Tell me. Child agency. Okay, child agency. This we said. Okay. Yeah, we're going to start with explaining what agency is. Yeah, agency is about, at one point you think that you want to effect changes in the world. You want to uh, uh, effect that changes that you want to see in the world, right? Um, and this is obviously happening. I mean, anyone can be can have agency, but normally agency uh, in our male-dominated societies and in our male-dominated world is associated with men. So that's why we don't talk about men agency, because it's a given. Because it's people take it for granted that if you're male, you have agency. So let's forget about this. Let's talk about the other sectors. And when we talk about the other sectors, we talk about agency as if. So we have women. If women take matters into their own hands because obviously society frustrated them and failed them, we call it women agency. If we have children claiming what what they think are their rights, we say child agency. So let's talk about child agency because this is what concerns us here. So we have children who are taking matters into their own hands. And obviously, you wouldn't expect them at a very young age to, yeah, it's good for a child to be like a decision maker and everything, but obviously, perhaps a child should be focusing more on his or her studies and this play thing. It's very important that a child plays and mixes and everything in between. But you wouldn't give or invest very early on in him in terms of responsibility and commitment and all those kinds of things, right? You would uh, allow him as a parent or as society to live this stage of his life where he or she is a little bit carefree, focusing more on building his personality and all those kinds of nice things. But to push him so hard, him or her for that matter, and ask him to do things that you normally associate with mature individuals, this is obviously not good enough. So again, child agency comes here, obviously, because children are not asking for it. No, because they were forced to exercise it. Okay? And of course, examples of child agency would be Said and even her brother, because her brother was also wasn't that a passive boy after all. Um, so again, you talk about what happened that prompted Said to decide that she has to take matters into her own hands, and this is what we call child agency. Again, you would go all the way back to what happened in Nigeria and the fact that they are under autocratic government. I mean, her parents were persecuted, their mother got assassinated, their father is witch hunted. Okay, and then she goes along with her brother to England. And again, the issues are not resolved yet. So she has to kind of, uh, like they say, shape up or shape out. I don't know whether I'm using the expression correctly or not. Shape in perhaps and shape out. She has to kind of um, face up to the challenge, if you like. She has to maneuver and negotiate her way through. Remember, it's uncharted territories for her, the fact that she is foreign. I mean, England is obviously not her home or her hometown or country, right? So she has to show agency in this way. She has to defend herself and her brother. She has to maneuver when she is back in there in this school, and she has to know how to deal with bullying. A lot of pressure, psychological pressure on her and on her brother. And again, she navigates all these things very successfully. This is agency, right? And then her father and the complications with her father and her case and his case, I'm sorry. And again, this grappling with the idea of whether to tell the truth or not, and then deciding and resolving that she has to momentarily withhold the truth, be economical with the truth. This is also agency because it involves calculations and calculated risks, right? And also this bouts of moral dilemmas because of this moral ambiguity that she's faced with. Because remember, back home, her parents raised her up against this idea of upholding the truth no matter what. But these are all conflicts and clashes that she is grappling with. She was born and raised to be a moral absolutist. Moral absolutism is in her blood. If something is wrong, I say that it is wrong. If something is right, I say that no, we don't have any gray areas. So she has to navigate all of that and emerge victorious, which she did, obviously. But this is child agency at its best, right? Who doesn't admire Said at the end? Who doesn't like Said? Obviously, Said is a favorite among all of us, right? Who may disagree on the other characters, why they are doing what they are doing. The father, for example, some people would like and admire him for his integrity, and some other people say, no, this guy is reckless. Yeah, integrity is good and everything, but still you need to be more strategic. You need to know when to say what, right? That's why some he may fall out of favor with some of us. But we are all allied and united in our love and admiration for Said, right? Who doesn't like Said? Raise your hands if you don't. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yes. See? So this is child agency as best represented by the character of Said, right? So this is one of the ideas. What other ideas when we talk about the other side of truth?
How telling the truth is not always the right way to navigate your life. Sometimes you had to, sometimes you had to lie to survive in certain ways.
I wouldn't call it lie because lying doesn't sound very
Not lying
good.
in
Yeah,
particular,
yeah.
yes.
I mean, you need to
Yes,
be
that it would be
strategic with the truth.
immoral, but
Yes, exercise some strategy when it comes to telling the truth. It's about being economical with the truth. Yani for political correctness sake. Yeah, that's a good idea. The idea of again, it's you can always tie it up with this idea of moral absolutism, right? Sometimes you need to show discreteness, discretion, wisdom, right? Tact, diplomacy. Yeah, this is very important, this idea. Yeah, it's not about the what, yeah, what kind of truth you're revealing. It's about the how and the when. So when you're going to reveal this kind of truth, or perhaps hide it and withdraw it, and how you're going to say it, or the lack thereof, or not say it. So it's about employing and deploying strategy, more or less, which is not a bad thing, right? Given the complications and the complexities of life, we have to navigate a lot in our everyday existence, every day, right? So you wouldn't, for example, I'll give you a very simple example. If when you see a friend and you think that he or she is sick and it shows on his face, you wouldn't kind of hit him with this sad reality and say, "You look so ill or so sick today," for example, and perhaps he or she is hiding that, but he doesn't know that it shows on his or her face. So you wouldn't give him this reality check sometimes. Again, because of his morale and everything. So is this lying? No. This is being empathetic. This is being more of a moral booster, right? Until the right moment comes and you tell him or her, you're trying to make sure that he or she is well, and you need to also know how to check on him or on her. Okay, so being honest is not a bad thing, but being brutal honest is sometimes not the right thing to do, or brutally honest, I mean. Okay, so this is a very interesting idea, the idea of truth telling. And in this case, you'll associate it with the idea of, the father working as a journalist, but obviously he's not your typical journalist who gives people what they want in terms of, yeah, you want this, take it. You're corrupt, that's fine. Well, we don't have a problem with that. Obviously, he is a fearless journalist. And what he does is what we call fearless reporting. Again, we agree on how important fearless reporting is, but what we don't agree on would be when and the how, right? Again, you would talk about the father and his journalistic endeavors, and you would talk about even what the father and the mother are teaching their kids, again about this moral absolutism, about being very inflexible when it comes to truth telling. You talk about that. You talk about also the consequences, because this is not calculated. It backfires, which means that that the children who were caught unaware are caught in this crossfire between being economical with the truth and being brutally honest and telling the truth flat out. It's a very difficult decision to take. It's a very difficult territory and frontier to to navigate when it comes to children, remember? So this is what truth-telling, wrong-headed truth-telling is making. It makes the children very vulnerable, right? But this is about truth-telling, yes. Yeah. Somebody was saying something else. Let me see in the chat. Yeah. I think somebody's writing something. Familiar reunion and its emotional significance. Yeah. Yeah, familial bonds in general, and how those bonds can be severed sometimes for whatever reason. People get disconnected from their immediate families. Things happen, and over time, there are lots of trials and tribulations, and then they also reconcile. Yeah, we're talking about this area between when they leave each other and when they get reunited, yes. What else about the other side of truth? Bullying, what happened to the girl? Again, you would tie this idea of bullying up with truth-telling and maneuvering and navigating very complex territories. Again, the idea that England, and for that matter, Britain, is not the best of all possible worlds when it comes to the protection of rights. Remember, the kids went there on the premise that life there is going to be different, that they would be given asylum easily, they will live a happy kind of life away from danger. But this didn't happen overnight. It took them some time. It took them some trials and tribulations. So this was very traumatic for them too. So England is not what we all think it is in terms of being the beacon of democracy and the guarantor of rights. You know, we're even seeing and feeling all those kind of double standards, right? So when we talk about that, you talk about what happened to the kids in England, the bullying incidents, the bureaucratic regulations that does or do not take into account the fragility of and the vulnerability of children. It's a very blind system of immigration that does not take into account that children are different from mature individuals. The way you treat children should be different in terms of making things easy for them, stuff like that. And there is always this talk about media and its role. Again, in this case, you'll talk about different types of media, and how geography determines what kind of media you expect. If we talk about Nigeria and what was happening, so you don't expect media, you don't expect honest, fearless journalism, you expect propaganda. Propaganda is about saying what the government wants you to say as a journalist. So this is not fair journalism. This is not accountability and watchdog uh, um, journalism. Again, if this is the trend in Nigeria, for the father to come over and exercise free and fearless journalism is very risky, obviously, right? He's putting himself and his family in harm's way. And again, that would require us to ask the question of whether he was justified, he was correct or not. Again, it's not about the what. We are all agreed on the what. Fearless journalism, watchdog, and accountability journalism are very good things because you're exposing the corruption of the regime and the government. That's something that we all would applaud and celebrate. But you need to choose the time and you need to know how you can do that. Um, Again, we talk about journalism in a different place when they when talk about the transition to England, and obviously England is different. There is this um, margin of freedom of expression, um, and we talk about the role of media in exposing corruption, in informing people, in giving a voice for the voiceless. These are the different roles of the media, which we haven't seen in Nigeria, but we are seeing in England. Again, we're not saying that England um, is a safe haven or England is, the beacon of freedom and democracy. Then, of course, they have their own issues and problems. But of course, if you compare them to Nigeria at the time, the gap is so big. And you get examples of how media helped in England for the truth to come out, for the public to be aware of the dilemma of this family and start to show support, mobilize uh, the masses so that they can do something. This is one of the roles of the media that was played out in England, but not in Nigeria. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yes. Hmm. What else? Again, the setting is very important, and the setting and the geography determine the outcomes and the consequences. And this is what we have seen played out in the novel Nigeria and then England, and what happened here and what happened there. Yeah. Geography determines a lot. Yeah. Okay. طب we'll stop on this note and with this item. The conversation will keep going. If you have any questions, you can always use the WhatsApp group and we can always any answer the questions that you may have. Again, inshallah, you'll do well. You have done enough. You have studied and prepared and attended, and I don't see any reason for you to perhaps worry unless you have this healthy kind of concerns and worries that will prompt you to study more and everything. This is good, but don't take it to extremes. Shouldn't be obsessing too much at this and that point. You'll do well if you have done your homework, which means that you have studied and prepared and read the primary and the second sources, you came to the classes, you attended, and yeah, you're on your way towards having, inshallah, the highest marks possible. Yeah, Munira, go ahead.
Doctor, I want to ask about the close reading.
Yeah.
I need to know what kind of point what then we should include or not include, what make it differ from the essay, the close reading.
Yeah, the close reading normally comes in the essay part, which means that we expect you to also write an essay. You use the format of an essay, but the prompts are taken from the cues and the signals and the science in the close reading. And I said the close reading can be a picture from the picture books, and it can be a passage from the other side of truth. In all likelihood, it can be from a picture book. Okay? So if it's from a picture book, so you need to, what? What?
لا, if a text come from the novel, for example, should we write also the background of the story or what the incident?
Yeah, you contextualize it. You talk about where this part is. And we normally give you even this, which is obviously interesting. The close reading from a novel can be like a prompt that can open the possibilities for you. I mean, in terms of argument and in terms of ideas. So we provide you with we even tell you what the theme is here in this passage. All you need to know is to develop the ideas in a coherent whole and even use examples from the passage that you're having. Okay? So we're not asking you to identify the passage in terms of who are involved or in terms of where it is, because we tell you that this part gives you this or that in terms of ideas or themes. But what we need you to do is to perhaps analyze more, give more examples, put everything together and come up with a decent essay. See? If it's a picture book, like I said, you need to always think of symbolism with whether it's color symbolism, whether it's seasonal shifts, whether it's intertextual elements in the background, whether I mean the position of the characters, whether they are central or on the margin, big or small. Think of the fonts used and what they express and reveal. And then tie it all up together and come up with a coherent whole, like I said. But after the totality of experience. Again, I'm warning people against the idea of writing a very small paragraph in the short answer part. No. A small paragraph does not do you any service. If it's small, no, right? If I have to choose between people who write and people who don't write, of course, people who write, of course, write intelligibly, write sensibly, in a coherent way. Yeah. And I would like you to commit to the fact that sometimes you go to the exam and say, I don't know, I'm going blank. No, there is no such thing as being blank when it comes to questions. You know you have more knowledge than what you give yourself credit for. I promise you. But don't leave a question unattempted. But let's make this fine distinction between me asking you to write in the essay part one essay out of two, and you write the two. If you write the two, this is wrong. And we normally ignore the second unnecessary question, and your second one may be better than the first one, right? So do yourself favor and stick to the guidelines. If I ask you in the essay part question to write only one essay and you write two, okay, I check and mark the first one. Okay, and perhaps your second one is better than the first one. We have those clear instructions to ignore and discard the second one. So why invest unnecessary time on something that you're not going to be given marks for? Focus on what is required. If I ask you to write on two short questions and the short answer part out of three, you don't write the three. Because if you write the three, we're going to only mark the first two. How about the three? We ignore it. And perhaps the three is better than the second or the first. Okay, so invest the right amount of time on the right number of questions. Okay, also the organization of the page is very important. Writing in an essay, in a clear essay format is very important. Okay, so it's not about giving everything, whether it's relevant or not. No, it's not about filling the pages with ink and full stop. You need to be in your answer to be intelligible. It has to be sensible. It has to be concise and everything. Okay, right. When is the midterm? It's next week. This is all I know. But when?
6 March,
March 6th, which happens to be what? Which falls on, let me check.
Thursday, 12 p.m.
You still have time, mashallah. Which means that if you need me, we can arrange another class, but inshallah you will be able to manage it. What else what do I want you to do? Is it what time? I'm sorry, come again. What time is the exam? I'm talking about the time, not the date.
12 p.m.
12. Okay, this is Ramadan time, or that doesn't make a difference? Or this is written on the exam schedule, right?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, طيب clear. ممتاز. طيب يا جماعة. Ramadan Kareem. I wish you all the best. I know that you'll do very fine in the exam. You'll make me proud. And again, like I told you, I would like you to take the opportunity and attend the number of TEFL workshops that I'm giving as of Saturday. You're going to benefit a great deal, inshallah. And again, spread the word and circulate the schedule with everyone. يلا. أشوفكم على خير. السلام عليكم.